welcome back to my English classes online intermediate level. In today's lesson, we're going to be looking at using how often, how far, and how long. We have examples for each and every one of them, so let's get started. Okay, so let's have a look at how to get started. We use how to describe the manner or the way in which something occurred. For example, this person asked, "How did you travel in Europe?" And as an answer, we have by bus. Or our next example, "How do you feel?" Very well. Or "How did you pass the exam?" By studying very hard. We can also use how plus an adjective or an adverb. This changes the meaning slightly. Let's have a look. How old are you? So here we have how plus old, which is our adjective. Or how beautiful is she? Here we have how plus an adjective again, beautiful. We can also ask, how big is your house? How well do you write? And how quickly did you drive? So here all we can see is how plus an adjective or an adverb. Okay, so now when it comes to how often, we're dealing with the frequency of something. So how many times does someone do something? Once a week, once a month, or even 3 times a year. Let's have a look at some examples. How often do you play tennis? Once a week. How often do you get up early? Every day. What we can see here is we're constantly being given the frequency of the action. So how many times am I getting up early? Every single day. How many times am I playing tennis? Once a week. Our last example, how often does she go to the dentist? Twice a year. Now, as I've already been using, we can often switch places between how often and how many times. So, for example, I can say, how many times a day, a week, or a month do you send an email? I could also say, how often do you send an email? This means how many times and how often are interchangeable, which means we can use them in the same places. Let's have a look at how far. When we use how far, we're talking about measurements. So 500 meters, 1 kilometer, 5 blocks, for example. That's the kind of answer that you're going to receive when you use how far. Let's have a look at some examples. How far do you live from work? 10 miles. Or how far is it from Ankara to Izmir? 590 kilometers, for example. Or even, how far is it from your school to your house? 100 meters. The most important thing here is we're giving measurements when we use how far. Now, like we've just seen, how far, we can also use how many. So they can also swap places. For example, how many miles, kilometers, or blocks do you live from your family? I can also ask, how far do you live from your family? Or how many miles, kilometers, or blocks? In both questions, I'm going to give an answer of 5 blocks, or 2 miles, or 20 kilometers. Lastly, let's have a look at how long. Now, many times in English, people confuse how far and how long, but there is a difference. How far, like I said, is to deal with measurements, 100 meters, 5 kilometers. When I speak about how long, I'm speaking about time, 10 minutes, an hour, 20 hours. Let's have a look at some examples. How long does it take to cook pasta? 10 minutes. I've been given a time. Or, how long does it take to learn English? At least 1 year. Again, time. Our last example, how long did it take to go there? 2 hours. Another example of us using time. So how long always gives us a time-related answer. Just like the other two, we know that we can substitute how long in with how many. So, for example, how many minutes, hours, or days does it take to do this work is the same as how long does it take to do this work. Okay, so now that we've looked at all of our different types, we do know that for how far and how long, we can also have longer answers. So let's have a look at how a longer answer would look. Let's start with how far. How far is it from your house to your school? Instead of just saying 2 blocks, I can say it is 2 blocks from my house to my school. Another example, how far is it from Ankara to Istanbul? Instead of just saying 590 kilometers, I can say it is 590 kilometers from Ankara to Istanbul. Let's have a look at some examples for how long. How long does it take to cook pasta? Before, we said our short answer was 10 minutes. Now we can say it takes 10 minutes to cook pasta. One more example. How long did it take you to cook the cake? It took me 30 minutes to cook the cake instead of 30 minutes. So with our longer answers and our shorter answers, both are correct, but it depends on the situation. Sometimes you will need to answer with full sentences, and in that case, we use this structure. Okay, and that's it for our lesson on using how often, how far, and how long. All that's left to do now is the activities, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.